Oh man, Sterling, the music was so exciting.
I know, it gets me like pumped up every time. I feel like I'm about to charge into battle or something, riding my steed.
If I really believed I was charging into battle, I would probably be in tears right now. I'd probably just be like, you know, soiling my pants.
If I found myself there, then I would just like own it. Like, I'm gonna die.
You're just gonna own it? Wow.
I'm just gonna be there, man.
True warrior. I'm more of a books person. I say that, but I haven't read a book in like the most reading I do is when I play Shadowverse, and even then it's like reading
sentences.
Because oftentimes I play a card and be like, oh, that's not.
Well, you play if you play the campaign, you know, you gotta like read the text and stuff like that.
Hey, we're in the pre-show.
That's right.
We're in the pre-show. Shadowverse Open number 8 is about to start. We have a very special guest with us. I'm so excited about this. He's a very, very likable guy. Ignidius, how are you doing today? Tell us a little bit about yourself. What brought you here today?
Hi, Ignidius here. I'm a Shadowverse YouTuber, and I'm a likable guy, apparently. Thank you.
You're a very likable guy. Oh, the thing that I always remember, you have a tagline when you start your videos that I really like because it kind of like makes fun of that whole fam thing. I believe the term you use is familia. Right. I love it. I like it.
Familia Igni here. Although it's sort of like evolved from being an ironic thing to like actually being.
That's your thing now. Oh my God! What have you become? Nice. Put him down now. He needs to be stopped now before he grows too powerful. Hey, speaking of growing too powerful and powerful people, the JCG just happened this weekend. Of course, as normal, Saturday and Sunday. The JCG has 2 tournaments a week, and so there are 2 top 2 finalists from each of those days. On Saturday, we had Matsu, who took first place against Azu, who came in second. Matsu was running Dragon Blood, and Azu was running Dragon Haven. So very interesting, and mind you, these guys were playing before the patch happened, so this was on the old, kind of still buffed up Zell, you know, the Catacomb that was still, you know... I imagine Prince Catacomb is like that card that like made it, was like a community guy. He became really successful, and then he started overcharging people. He was like, all right, now I'm going to cost 4. I'm not going to cost 3. And everybody was like,
he's realized his worth, and he's selling out now.
Yeah,
that's pretty funny.
That's what Prince Catacomb does. He's like, you know what? I've given you so many wins.
Supply and demand. That's how it works.
He's going to increase his price. Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Customers are leaving, though.
Yeah, his customers are leaving. He's screwed. He's screwed. He didn't realize that they would drop him so quick. There was no emotional connection.
It's a business move. There's still time, though. You know, like you gotta give the customers time to adapt and change. You know.
We'll talk about the patch changes in a little bit. On Sunday, the first place winner was R, and the second place winner before I dropped my pen was Cerulean. It was Cerulean.
Flew right off the table.
Yep. R played Dragon Shadow, as to be expected, and Cerulean played Shadow Forest, which was a deck archetype that we hadn't seen a lot. And here with Ignidius joining, I'd just like to pose a question to you two, both Ignidius and you, Sterling. This previous meta, where Dragon and Shadow was so dominant, we still see a situation, before these cards were changed, that there's still a pretty good representation of crafts, at least on the East Coast in this particular tournament. Bloodcraft and Forestcraft making it through. And we know in the West that Swordcraft is really popular, as well as in the East, Japan is playing Havencraft. I think, and maybe Ignidius, he can speak to this a little bit, I feel like from a very emotional perspective, Dragon and Shadow just seems super overpowering, very overbearing. But looking at tournament results, it does seem that there were a few situations within these last kind of 8 weeks when we've been looking at the JCG where other crafts have won. What do you make of it?
I mean, yeah, Dragon and Shadow were really overpowering, specifically on the ladder. That's because on ladder, it's a little different to a tournament meta in that on ladder, things have to win really consistently. And they have to win all the time against everything.
Over a long period of different matches,
right? Yeah, exactly. And we saw that a little bit in the early tournaments as well, since people didn't really know how to counter it quite yet. But I feel like over time, people are starting to realize, oh, these are the techs that beat this, which is why we see Blood, of all things, making it to the first place on the Saturday tournament.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised to see Haven up there as well.
Yes.
Like on Saturday, no Shadow made it into the finals. Because I think Haven does counter Shadow if you tech it correctly.
Yes.
But the thing is, on tournaments, decks tend to be more teched out anyway, because I always say this, in that in tournaments, you have to, you know what your opponent is going to bring, you know how to tech against it, and you only have to win once. Whereas on ladder, you have to, win against everything over a long period of time.
Right. definitely a
Which is why I
different
think we saw
mentality.
this representation. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And it's really awesome that we saw lots of different decks on the on tournaments for sure. That makes me really happy. I think it makes all the viewers really happy too.
Yeah.
You games aren't just Dragon Shadow all the time.
Yeah. What do you make of it, Sterling?
I think in the beginning it was very apparent to all the players, like the 2 decks or the 4 different archetypes that were the strongest, and those got played a lot and they were fleshed out, so everybody knew exactly like what the compositions that worked for them were, and there were little unique decks that came out for each individual players that we see here in the tournaments and even in the JCG. And there were other archetypes, other decks and classes that weren't fleshed out as much, and now players are starting to realize, if I want to win, if I want to be a first place winner, I need to figure out a way to beat those 2 decks, and we're seeing that starting.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, also this weekend, not going to go super in depth to it, but there was a really cool Japan versus Korea show match that happened, and it was just the top Korean players, or gathering some of the more successful Korean players and some of the more successful Japanese players, and they went head to head, and they had kind of a grand old time playing.
So intense.
There were some great Havencraft decks being played, and it was a lot of Dragon Shadow. But on that topic, we're kind of moving on from that time period. There were a few changes that came through. I believe just yesterday the servers went live again, and now you're able to play with the cards in a slightly different fashion. Going through the changes off the top of my head, Prince Catacomb cost 3 up to 4. He's starting to upsell people. You know?
Zell went from a 2 cost to 2. He's now a 4 drop, and he's got 3 attacking.
Goliath.
Yeah, that's a really interesting change. I feel like that really... I actually thought they were only going to increase Zell to 3 play points, but we can talk about that a little bit later. And finally, Lightning Blast has had its enhanced effect removed. So Lightning Blast originally was 6 play point banish. Yeah, pretty interesting change. And then it had an enhanced effect. If you play it at 10 play points, it banishes everything on your opponent's field.
But now the enhanced 10 is gone. It's just a 6 cost banish, a follower, or an amulet.
So the question, yeah, and that's absolutely right. The question I'd like to pose to you, Ignatius, is how do you feel about these changes, and what do you think, in your eyes, is going to be really the new up-and-comer of the deck to watch out for with these changes in mind?
I mean, in general, I'm really happy with them. I think pushing Catacomb to 4 is a bigger nerf than a lot of people expect. Like, I saw before the nerfs dropped, they were like, oh, Shadow only got a slap on the wrist. I don't think that's necessarily true. 1/2 Catacomb is insanely strong.
Yes, yes,
and,
the curve.
Running it alongside Bone Chimera makes your early game so consistent that it's really hard for Shadow back then to have a bad hand. Now pushing it to 4 makes the early game a lot less impactful, and it has to compete with Orthrus as well, which I feel like really decreases the power level of the deck. It also lets Haven build up more of their tools to start dealing with the board rather than having to deal with like a board full of dudes on turn 3. And that's really powerful because Haven is Shadow's natural counter, as it should be.
But it also gives the Shadow players an opportunity to really explore the different 3-drops that are available. We've seen Rabbit Necromancer as a really popular 3-drop sometimes. And now I feel like maybe that card is going to maybe have 3 copies in the deck, or 2, along with 3 copies of Bone Chimera, maybe 5 3-drops, or maybe 4 3-drops. I'm interested to see how that's exactly going to work with, if you're going first and you've got Catacomb right on turn 4, it could still be a pretty nasty combination.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really good point to make, because I've seen some decks on ladder just playing it yesterday, the short time that I had. I saw some decks running Zombie Buccaneer.
No way.
Zombie Buccaneer?
Seriously. Yeah.
Wow. Hey.
People are just trying to... I think it's still in the early state of the post.
Do you think the Japanese player, R, was running Zombie Buccaneer?
Well, he played before the changes, so probably not, but
I mean... I mean, come on.
Come on. Come, Ignatius, please. Stop, kill this guy.
He had a Shadow deck. I mean,
ban him.
Ban Sterling.
Not allowed.
Ban Sterling, please.
I actually liked it.
You like the joke?
Oh
okay, I'm
Sorry.
gonna have to.
You be the first.
I'm gonna have to kill both of you now. Yeah. Hey, but that's another zombie to add to our jokes list. So I'm looking forward to that. Zombie Buccaneer, maybe a lot of different 3-drops to explore, as Sterling said. What do you think is going to be kind of popular, the first location for people to experiment with? I have a feeling that Blood is kind of the go-to popular one. It's kind of that deck that a lot of people were trying out with before these changes happened. And now that these changes have happened, I feel like it might be the little thing that pushes Blood over to being able to finish out their curve and connect with the aggression that Vengeance Blood can give. What do you think, Ignatius?
I mean, Blood won the tournament on Saturday before the nerfs. I mean, now in the short time I've played ladder, I've seen Storm Vengeance all the time, which is why the first thing I took to ladder was aggro sword, because
man, aggro sword,
countering the meta right off the bat. Yeah, Blood definitely was the favorite to come up after a nerf. I mean, right before the nerfs were even announced, I knew that if there was going to be a well-placed nerf on Dragon or Shadow, Blood would be one of the ones to rise to the top. It's just insanely powerful. It got so many great tools with Tempest. It's like it's impossible not to be amazing.
It was already so powerful and very balanced. It was just like waiting for the moment where it could finally just like take a significant advantage.
But it's just because Dragon and Shadow were really oppressive in the meta that it couldn't really rise up. But now that these nerfs have hit, Dragon's going to see, I think, quite a bit of less play. Shadow is also slightly less good. That it's going to be Blood's time. At least while people are still figuring it out, I think Blood is going to be a pretty reliable thing to take to the ladder. Yeah, for sure.
What do you think, Sterling?
I think with the changes to Zell, we can talk about that now, about how that's going to influence the Ouroboros combos and the Sahakwi
Bahamut not being able to play those anymore, at least on one turn.
Well, you could if you utilized the Wyvern Cavalier or the Chaos Dragon Rider Argus or Urgus. Igris.
Oh boy.
We're gonna drop this right now.
Oh boy.
It allows you to reduce the cost of a card in your hand by 2 points, so you can still make the Zell a 2 cost and then pull out those combos. But it just adds another card, another piece to the puzzle that you have to pull off.
Right. And there's sorry, go ahead.
A combo gets significantly harder to pull off the more cards you add to it, like exponentially.
So now, if you want a Sahakwi, Zell, Bahamut, it's a 4-card combo that you have to have in your hand.
Yeah, and I think you guys make really good points there. A 4 cost for 3/4 is maybe not the worst I've seen in the world, but it definitely doesn't feel good to play it early on.
Yeah, and you can't use it for tempo at turn 2. The Dragon players are going to have some other option, another 2-drop in their hand. So that's another 3 cards that are going to be taking up space in the deck.
Yeah.
The 2-drop slot is maybe the most important slot in the game. Turn 2 may be the most important turn in the game, just because of the way.
Because Bellringer Angel exists in that curve.
Yeah, having Zell not be a 2-drop, actually, I think really hurts it. I think it might not even be run ever anymore. But it has to be 4. It couldn't be 3 because otherwise Sahakwi could still come out.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and that's the Sahakwi is really what puts the nail in the coffin, right? Because that's what allows you to bring stuff like, Bahamut or Israfil or something.
Bahazel, that was the bane of existence for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, being able to do 13 damage to face like in 1 turn, it's insane.
Well, I know, Ignitius, that you mentioned you were playing aggro sword. Are there any other decks you're looking to? Because let me tell you guys a little bit. I'm sure everybody in chat knows by now, but Ignitius is notorious for educating the public about how to troll people. He makes these disgusting videos that show just the most annoying decks in existence.
Borderline blasphemous videos.
Yeah. And he just displays it for the public to see and just teaches them how to play it, how to build a deck, and just shows that it can beat things on ladder. What are you cooking up for this particular instance of Shadowverse?
For this particular, I mean, it's the new era. It's an era of a new meta, which means that I get to try everything, at least until it's figured out. And this is like the most exciting time for me as a deck builder, because I can just like throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. I think, I mean, that's what I do. I think I'm definitely gonna revisit Lock Forest just because that's my favorite deck, and it's awesome. Getting to lock an opponent's board with Forest Archelon and then going face with Jungle Warden, like nothing can beat that. It's like the best feeling in the world.
That's pretty sweet.
They can't do anything, and you're just like, got him. Otherwise, I think meme-wise, I found this list called Turbo Dragon, which uses Golden Dragon's Den, Luxfang Kit, and just Storm minions to go face.
Okay.
And it's really bad, but it's so fun.
Yeah, you haven't convinced me with those cards.
I can't stop playing it. It has Harnessed Flame too, but no glass.
What?
Because the Harnessed Flame attacks, it does 2 damage to face.
You play this in ranked?
I did play it on ranked.
What's the win rate, if you don't mind me asking?
I've only played 5 games. I've lost 3, but I did win 2 against
won 2 games.
Too. Yeah.
It's two very mad people.
two real mad
two
people.
very angry people. Every time I drop the golden dragons, then they take a second and they're like, "What?"
What?
And then like all bets are off. You could have anything in your deck. That's the best part.
Just to read the card because they've never seen it before.
Right. Well, I'm sure Ignidius is tilting players one by one on the ladder. Hey, what would you like to see out of the competitors today, Ignidius? Would you like to see Bloodcraft take a win in the NGE Shadowverse Open? Would it maybe be Runecraft? Would it be Aggro Sword? What would you say would be your craft to take the tournament? NGE Shadowverse Open number 8.
It's a tumultuous time in the meta right now. I think people are still trying to figure out what exactly is good. And after the nerfs, I think some players are going to still stick with Dragon Shadow or whatever worked for them last time because they took so long to prepare for the tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, it's high stakes here.
Yeah.
So it's going to be hard to sort of switch gears, right, when the nerf hits. But I think the people who are going to make it to the top today are going to be the people who did do that. So I think Blood is quite strong.
Great.
I think Sword may see a comeback as well.
Great. So maybe Blood.
Sword has always been, Sword has always been consistently good, and it counters Blood. And now with the Dragon nerfs and Shadow nerfs, it's going to be a lot more survivable.
All right. We'll see. We'll see if that happens to play out here. Sterling and I think we'll hold our judgment until the tournament plays out a little bit, so we can pretend like we're a little more accurate. We're probably still gonna make.
So that's how it's gonna be. You're gonna make me do a prediction, and then when I turn out to be wrong, you're
our cards close to the chest as always.
This whole time I knew this was gonna happen. I just didn't say it in the beginning.
Baited. We got him. Anyways, there's only a few minutes left before NGE Shadowverse Open number 8 kicks off. Ignidius will be joining us once again before each of the semifinals. Love to hear a lot of your thoughts, but we're going to go to a little bit of a break, and when we come back, the NGE Shadowverse Open will kick off with the new meta.